Now we are getting to our first song. This is shake us too much. They got a very strong practice today in the morning. I want to keep it in. Thank you. First up is Kazi Pali Maishi. This is a house of free slaves after the abolition of slavery. They will show you all our African descended ancestors survived.
Oh yeah. Cacti fence.
Alright, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, all of us like to have some numbers. Yes. Alright, so good morning. First of all, I hope that you had a very, very great start of the day. Sorry. With these holiday here. And let's get started and get an amazing view of the southern part of the island. We don't really touch the rooster or the chickens in here. We don't eat them. Only if they lay eggs, we take them and eat them. Okay? The skull of the donkey that you can see on top of the tree is also placed to pass away bad spirits, but especially during night. Okay? We're going to walk right now. It looks quite like a pizza, and we use the solid for bread here on the island. We start off always by chopping down dead trees while cooking the speed. It's very energy dense. Whenever you're buying charcoal at Walmart, that is exactly what you're buying. We insert it in here, we set it on fire, and then we use it to cook charcoal. But if my oven is completely full of charcoal, I can't insert anything else, right? So I need to start off by cleaning it up. But for now, we use this right here. It's a natural broom. The herb on top is called the white sage. It has a very distinct aroma to it. Once I clean my oven with it, the aroma will linger inside and eventually stay onto my bread. So how do we insert the bread? And this over here looks just like a pizza shover, but the idea is that you place your bread on top, you rub it with a little bit of comfort, rich caramel color, you insert it, you cover it with the flour, and then you have to wait between 10 to 15 minutes each day so you can get your bread ready. It will be plain old white bread, there will be no parmesan, no wheat, nothing like that. Okay, just so you know. Right now I'm going to walk to our oven and with charcoal oven. Charcoal is the black metal that we can see in the pot right over there. We use it for cooking, and those old-fashioned irons used it as well. It is constructed out of 3 layers. Layer number 1 is just a circle of fire stones. On top of it, a very important mesquite tree. Again, a pile of shannon. Usually, we always recommend to use 2 openings behind
Cactus.
the front one and the rear for ventilation, of course. Or how can I know that my charcoal is ready to be harvested? This pile of sand that we can see over here will suddenly sink in, not only setting off your fire, but also telling you that you should wait maybe between 2 or 3 days for it to cool down completely, and then you can grab it and go on about. Okay? Over here, I have a quick question for you. If you're at home, you're doing the laundry, and now it's time for you to dry your clothes off. What do you do? Place it in a dryer, or we place it on a wash line, right? But back in the day, they didn't have neither of those 2 options, so they had to be really creative. And one day, one of them saw that a cacti has spines, so they thought interesting, and it is literally like that they found out that it is possible for us to take up a piece of clothing, throw it over a cacti fence, it will adhere, and you can leave it standing there for 2 or 3 years because trust me, it's not going anywhere. Okay? What you're receiving right now is a complimentary lime juice, just freshly squeezed, a little bit of sugar and water. Enjoy. After you finish, if you can please hold on to your cup, because she's going to fill it.
Thank you.
That already, sir? Yes, everybody.
Where we're standing is very important whenever we have to plant here on the island. To this side we have the ramada, and this one is called the guarda, and we use them together to plant. If I can give you an example, after cutting up open pumpkin, for example, you will be left behind with all of those seeds, right? They have to die first in order for you to plant them, and in order for them to go through that process, we place them on top of this tree. Once completely dried, we take the seeds, and if you follow me, you can see where I store. This is the guarda, the papiamento word for a storage place. In here, you will always encounter a glass bottle. We have to insert the seeds in here and keep it safe until it is the rainy season. But do we have any idea why it has to be a glass bottle? Nope. What about birds? Birds can see through glass, okay? And if they can see through it, they can't reach it. And in that way, you keep your seeds perfectly safe, okay? Please walk along with me towards the cacti fence to your right hand side. You can stand in front and I'll be there. Alright, so for those that already read the sign, yes, you read it right. It's the restroom that they had back in the day. The idea was that it was a little bit higher, and for privacy reasons, you had to come inside, make yourself a nice little hole, squat, do whatever you had to do, and then you just cover it up, and the next person would have to do the same exact process. But after a while, they saw that the piece of land is really small, meaning it can get filled up quite easily. It's not that ideal, it would be a whole mess. So they decided, let's create something better. And if you come a little bit closer right now, you can see what they did. Alright, so basically a bench, put a hole in the right midst of it. You come with your own personalized bucket, place it underneath, you sit, do whatever you have to do, and then you go to the bushes, you throw it away, and then you clean it off so the next person. And eventually we all know how things develop, and nowadays you can really heat it. If I want the pink, purple glitter, I can do whatever I want, alright? Right now we're going to move all the way down to iron, so we can switch. Okay? After that time stand, it went on to a baking way, and it's like this. It's called kerosene stove. And the idea is that I had to pour all my kerosene in here, and we can all see the fire. Right? After that, quite simple to go about to cook it. On the island, we have some very, very interesting looking utensils that we use in the kitchen. This one is called a palilele. The actual tree grows like this, so you just have to shape it in your desired way. And guess how we use it? As a handmade mixer, you can use it for different things like the open soup or any type of food or whatever you have to make, you can use it. This one is called the pali funchi. Funchi is polenta and a very, very, very important supporter for us here on the island. A little bit of cornmeal, salt, and water. In order to stir it, you need a stick and polenta stick, okay? But other than that, we also use this if you're the woman of the house and you have people, especially if your husband is a little bit disobedient. No, just a big joke, okay? This one over here is a coral taken out of the ocean. But if we're talking KitchenAid, how can I possibly use it? Exactly, very smart. So what we can see or learn here is how creative the people were back in the day, just walking to the nature, to the beaches, and figure out what nature has to offer to cover their very basic necessities. Right in front of me right now, we have a piece of cacti, but what I haven't told you until now is that we have two types of cacti growing now. The ones that we saw the different hedges beforehand, we call those datu. The idea is that they're really, really sour, only goats eat it. This one is called dadushi. It tastes amazing, we eat plenty of it. But as you're looking at it right now, I know you're wondering how we can turn this into an edible recipe. So I'm going to show you just that. Start off by imagining with me that it has 3 layers. Layer number 1 is the spines that you can see over here. What we do is that we fillet them off, and then we'll be left with this over here. So how many layers do we still have to go through? Layer number 2 is easily removable by just wrapping it or rubbing it with the back of your knife like this. It loosens up the skin for you. Then you can slice it in two, and then it's just a matter of peeling it. Okay? Once peeled off, we take that white film, we throw it away. We don't eat this. What we eat is the emerald green part of the cacti. But how do we eat it? By slicing it off like so. We place it on a block of wood, and then with a wooden masher, we start mashing it up. Once mashed up to this consistency, we place it in a pot with water and sea salt, and that becomes the broth of our basic cactus. That is what we call the boiled version. If we want to make it a little bit richer, we start by adding things like salted pigtails or any type of seafood to it as well. Okay? Other than that, after you're done with your soup, you can also take the rest of your mashed up cacti, place it in a cup with some water, let it rest for about a week, and guess what it turns into? Glue, alright? So you can bind your things together. But after we remove all of the meat, we will be left behind with a center part, and here on the island, we don't throw anything away, okay? How do we use the center part? We slice it up in smaller dishes like this, and we use it as a water filtering system. But how does it work? If you have a bucket of groundwater out of the well, it still has dirt particles in it, right? So you can't really drink it, it's not that good for your body. So we take this, we throw it in a bucket of water. All the dirt of the water will come to adhere to the center part here, and then it's just a matter of taking this out, throwing it away, and you will be left behind with completely fresh and filtered. Since we're talking about water, please move with me towards the water wall behind us. Well, you have to carry your water home. But how? You have to use these over here. We call them merudilla, translated to the knee or the supporting muscle. You have to stack them up on top of your hat like this. Then it was time for you to grab your bucket of water. You have to balance it on top of your hat. And once you found balance, you had to take your 2 other hands down, because you also had to carry 2 more buckets in your hands, okay? And once you're carrying a total of 3, it's time for you to start walking back and forth towards your home. But what happens if it stumbles? I'll be getting soaking wet, right? And that's not the idea. So the females here on the island thought they can start using their hips to help them balance out the water. And there is where the theory started, that if you see a black lady walking a little bit sexy, so she had to balance content on the water. Once you have water, you can continue with different household chores like doing the laundry. And for that, we always use these. So from here, we call it washboard or scrubboard. It should be familiar to you. We started off with just the wooden version, and then we went on to sink and then to glass, which you can see over here. Quite a simple process, just with a little bit of help of the blue soap. Just scrub up and down, up and down, up and down until your feet are clothes is completely clean. Okay? But here on the island, this chore was done by a community of women, and we all know when a bunch of women come together, what do we do?
Yes.
Yes, you said. We just share relevant information. Okay? A little bit of that too. But other than that, it also thought it was the perfect opportunity to do some songs. And today, as the first group of the day, you guys are very lucky because I'm gonna do one of the songs. It goes like this. Washikula kino pola ya kalimambe ya kalimambe ya Tobokula kino pola ya kalimambe ya kalimambe ya. And the idea is that every time at that yaw part you have to scrub down a little bit harder so you can remove the dirt out of your clothing. And what was I singing? A quick translation. It says a washboard that washes with me can be washed with you. Okay? Usually I leave the rest for interpretation. Right now we're going to go.
I thought it was single ladies.
Oh, single ladies. We're gonna go right now to the sculpture in front of us. Please, here. Who was he and why was he actually that important? He was the head slave that started with the biggest rebellion at the island ever knew was. He walked that took place in 1795, and it came about because he was a slave that taught himself how to read and write. And one day, as he was sneaking the documents of the slave owner, he found out that the slaves in the French colony got their freedom. So he started wondering if they're black and he's black as well, how come are they free and he's still a slave? So something wasn't really adding up. He decided to go to the owner to, basically demand his freedom as well. But owner decided that it's not possible because it was a full-blown business. They were making a lot of wealth out of it, and Tula over here didn't have any other option but to revolt. So together with two of his close friends, they gathered more than 2,000 slaves just at the southern part of the island. And their idea was to march all the way towards the city center in Tula, where you left, and there they wanted to fight off the Dutch West Indian Company. But what they didn't expect at all was that the Dutch were already completely prepared and fully equipped for such an event. So the majority of them got captured again. Tula over here got slaughtered. His head hung in front of the government housing in order to show the other slaves that if you try something like that again, that is the punishment always. So the artist over here, John Panleon, didn't only place like this so we can share the story with you as international visitors. It's also placed so we can try and help motivate locals to start accepting ourselves for the skin color that we have in clothes in our hair, the proportions of our body, but mostly so we can learn that it's time to let go of us. And this is not only mental ones that we still carry till the day of today after years and years of the abolition of slavery. So that's why she plays the golden top as well. My soul is still alive and changing in the words of Tula, meaning that this gentleman over here will only and truly be free the day that we as a population learn to let go. Okay? And that was the story of Tula. Right now we're going to walk all together right to the house. Some history about Maishi. It's about 130 years old by now, an original piece recognized by UNESCO as well as a heritage place. The original roof was created out of corn maze, which we can see over here, but by now we've changed it to a more fresh setup, which is just plywood and palm leaves, alright? The walls were created out of moving branches of trees, and on top of it they placed this material over here. I'm going to let some go by so you can touch it, you can smell it as well, trying to figure out what it is. And I've seen some parts from Texas, so those people can't really speak on them.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you know. So the other guys, like the Floridians, do you have an idea? Alright, so this basically that you just help. Oh, by the way, to the gentleman in the back, I wouldn't recommend you tasting it. But if you want to, who am I to sending you away, right? Yeah, so this is officially called cow manure, cow dung, and if you don't really mind it, it's cow shit, okay? So, it has certain toxic gases inside of it. Basically, insects can smell those from miles and miles away, and that's why they never, ever, ever come here. They can all literally go laying on the floor today and not think about it. Okay? So now we know about the roof and the walls, the structure of the house itself, quite simple. We have one big room in the house, which would be the living room, and behind you we have the master bedroom as well. But since the bigger room was the living room, we also had to use it for different other things, and we can see over here they have their post closet. This is what we call a vitrina, so we can store some small items. These over here we call them pinache, and do you remember about the filtering of water? After that is done, you basically place them in here. This one over here, you guys should be able to tell me more about it than I can tell you. It's the modern day DJ booth that we know. This over here is just a mill, a machine to create these hats. Since everybody doesn't have the same size, it was kind of smart to tailor it or customize it. And over here we have one of the oldest ice cream machines that ever came to the world. Okay? You have to pour your ice box in here with a little bit of coconut milk and the desired taste, and you have to start turning on the handle until it turns to ice cream consistency that you want it. Right in the middle of your living room, you also had your dining table. At nighttime, you have to shove it over to the side so it could be turned into the restroom or the bedroom, of the children as well. And since today we have a whole bunch of things laying on top of it, let's go through some of them quickly so you can get acquainted to them as well. This one, do we know what it is? This would be an amazing coconut. This is actually called the fruit of the calabash. And it grows in Africa and on the island as well. So when the slaves came over, they saw it and they thought, okay, we know this, we can use it for different things. And one of the first things they created was this one, which would be, I have a bowl, I can't use my hands, right? Alright, I need a spoon as well, called kalembe. To drink some water, they had this one over here, and we also have a smaller version here on the island that looks like this. And we call it algobi. And guess what it is? Exactly. Probably say here on the island that we invented the idea. This one over here is the horn of a cow or a bull, and it was a mean of communication that they had back in the day. You would have to blow in here, it would create different sounds, and then based on that, you have to learn the population what was going on so you can still update it. Okay? So it's the equivalent of our Facebook, the telephone, the internet that we know nowadays. This one over here, yet another type of horn, this time from a goat. We start off by inserting a little bit of the dried up cow manure on top. We place the cotton, and then with a fire stone we set it on the fire, and it turns to be a very good version of a lighter, early on in the 40s, 60s. Okay? This is what we call a circle. To finish up inside of the house for today, I would like to tell you the story about these over here as well. I will start with this one. It's called Maishi chickpea, translated into cornmeal. It starts like this. We have two types of corn. Of course, we have the yellow corn on the top as well. This is the second one. We grind it until it turns into this. But why is it that important actually? Because of the document that we have standing. It is in Dutch, so I'll do all the translating. Basically, it says rules with regard to the treatment of slaves, and it was so that the Dutch West Indian Company once here, they were the highest authority concerning slave trade, and they had a set of rules for their slave owners. And here in Article 25, you can read that as a slave owner, you had to pay your slaves. But how? With this part of over here. And it also states different gender-based measurement cups, and we're going to show you those in real life today. So for the gentlemen, you will receive 6 of these each Wednesday. You would have to make it last a whole week, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it equals to less than 1 week. For the ladies, 5 of these, same exact concept, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the whole day. And if you had children, only one or two of each for the whole day.
Wow.
If you thought along with me today, you could have came to the same conclusions as I did about this formula. One, it wouldn't be enough. Two, it would be really, really boring as well. It just wouldn't know. So it is impossible for you to get all the amount of minerals the body needs just out of the And based on that, I took my time here to show you our influence cacti, which was one of the alternatives that we found these cells to just Now with that said, I would like to thank you for watching with me today. I hope that you had a great time, that you could have learned a little bit about the native culture here on the island as well, and that you can leave a little bit inspired about the creativity, the intelligence, and also the resilience, the backbones that the people have back in the day, and that we can go forward in life being a little bit more grateful about all the blessings that we have now. Thank you very much for walking with me. If you thought it was a great tour, you can feel free to leave a small gratuity for the museum. If you think it was the most terrible tour ever, you can leave even more so they can send me to school. Okay? Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the possible because you
We're looking at the chickens.